and now we're live.
Woohoo!
Okay, yeah, okay. We're gonna complain. Well, first off, because this is the enormous UFO Superstar show number 19, and there's a reason why we're doing this on a Tuesday. It's the 1st of November, and that's not why we're doing this on a Tuesday. Because
So
Matt,
are you participating in No Shave November?
no, because I'm getting my hair cut tomorrow.
Well, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I know, but
I'm do No Shave November and get a haircut.
Well, Matt threw me off. Anyway, but this is kind of off that. I did actually shave off my sideburns because they were really a lot of clumpy hair. I did shave them off a couple of days ago. I'm going to let them grow back out.
Nice.
But I typically don't shave that often anyway until it starts itching my face.
Oh, yeah.
Because my skin, especially down on my chin, tends to dry out really badly, and so it's like it's not good. And my hair down, my beard, when I do get one, I have gray hair in it. It's like no, it's either red, brown, or gray. I don't think so. So, but since we went off topic, Matt is currently in his car, the infamous car from Rusty Eck Ford in Wichita, which is still not plated yet. My guess is his plates are back home because he's not at home right now. He's actually in his car, like I said, driving back home from a week stay, almost a week, in Idaho.
Uh-huh.
And he didn't take me with him, so I'm not happy.
Well, you didn't answer the invite.
Well, too bad.
You didn't get the super uber secret invite from the enormous UFO Supercell email server.
Yeah, but I ended up getting a while he was gone, I did get a secondary chance to go somewhere because he left on last Monday, the 24th, correct?
Yep, correct.
On the 26th, that Wednesday, my mother and I drove up to Cheesecake Factory in Madison, Wisconsin.
Ooh, look at you.
Okay, this is how bad it was. Remember, and I told this to Matt while he was gone, before we came on, that it was warm and sunny and like in the 70s for several days in the time he was gone. Wednesday, the 26th, as some of you, if you were in the state, would know, was not one of those days. It was raining, cold, and in the 40s. It was plain awful driving up to Madison and driving back. When we came back, though, when we crossed the river back into Dubuque, the sky, it stopped raining. That's when it finally stopped raining. That was at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That was the most miserable day of the entire thing. The temperature in Madison, and I'll tell Matt this, the temperature in Madison on my mom's thermometer, reading in her car, was 44 and raining. And there was a report further up in Wisconsin that some of the rain was mixed with snow. Day. But that was the only day it was crap. Every other day has been decent. Yesterday it was Sunday it was a little chilly, but it's been sunny and kind of off and on cold warm. We've had some cold fronts that have come through dry with little or nothing. Not uncomparable to the South, which is still in a terrible drought. I believe Birmingham only had a trace of rain in October. And they also have a pipeline on fire again, the same one as. So gas prices are going up. If they go up here, I'm going to be pissed because it finally took forever. The gas prices here finally have gone down. So
what are the gas prices back at home?
$2.11.
Ooh.
Here in Anamosa, in Marion, they've gone under $2.
Oh wow.
Because when I went to Cedar Rapids, I think it was this past weekend, I drove my mom's car, and my mom bought gas at $1.98. Now people start thinking I'm gonna probably sing the $1.98 beauty show theme. I'm not doing that. I'm not Rip Torn. Matt's like, who's he?
I know who Rip Torn is.
Yeah, you don't know what the $1.98 beauty show is.
That I don't remember.
Yeah, that's pre us. That's in the 70s. The something you took the crown, you take the cake. Here's a crown and $1.98, and he sings it like this. This is how bad.
That's a pretty good Rip Torn impression. That's awesome.
Oh my God, $1.98. Do you like what you got? Oh God.
That's awesome.
The weather is bad. Oh my God. Jeez. Oh, look at you. You get $1.98 and a plate of vegetables.
Now all you need is just a bunch of tinsel that you're throwing around, and you'd be perfect. You'd be a perfect Rip Torn.
Well, bubble machine. Not being proud as bad.
No.
Okay, we've gone off topic. But outside of that, the weather's been blah. Honestly, because there's no tropical weather right now, unless something's happened. I'd have to check. I don't think so. That doesn't mean Matt checks because he's driving right now.
I'm not going to venture that far. What I will mention is that the
Atlantic is quiet. The Eastern Pacific is quiet. But outside of the drought continuing in the south, the weather here is still above average, which makes me really suspicious as to think, are we done with severe weather, given that we're still above normal? Average highs right now should be in the mid to upper 50s, and even though today it was in the mid 70s, the temperature is only going to drop into the mid 60s. So, we're except for tomorrow.
I still think there's one more system that'll come in and trigger off some severe storms. Will it?
Well,
be, November 17th all over again. Who the heck knows? But it does seem like. It feels like it to me, and this is just a feeling. This is not based off of anything real. It just feels like it to me that we're in for one more shot at severe storms somewhere in Iowa, and it'll happen sometime in the next two weeks. 3 tops.
Well, I'm more concerned that, that I don't think we're gonna get anything like Veterans Day last year where we had 19 tornadoes. I don't think I'm gonna see anything where we get surprise tornadoes right before Christmas like last year. I could see us seeing at least an outbreak somewhere outside of the South, because the South would be happy to have thunderstorms at this point. But unfortunately, in the South, they're heading into their fall tornado season. They would like the rain, but unfortunately, they may get more than just rain. They may get hail and tornadoes, and I don't think they want them.
Yep.
But La Nina years, we're going into what would be considered a weak to moderate La Nina, and that tends to mean that the South typically stays somewhat dry because the main storm track is kind of chaotic. It's unlike El Nino, where the southern stream is very strong and you get these big systems that crash into California, which didn't happen the last El Nino that much. But La Ninas here always seem to be that it's warm. That doesn't mean we don't get snow. But I honestly don't see, looking at the forecast well into the future, even beyond that, I honestly don't see snow possibly in this area this month, as we're in November now. Never say never though.
Yeah,
But
I think you might be right with that. I don't see a very snowy start to winter.
that doesn't mean you can't get a snowstorm in December, it dumps a foot of snow, and it's like everybody will remember. Similar to what happened 25 years ago, which was the Halloween blizzard. For Midwestern people, that's what people remember from 25 years ago. What the nation remembers is the perfect storm, when George Clooney decided to go and get himself into a boat and die.
Oh yeah, George Clooney.
I'm being fun because they made all the effort about that storm, but they made no mention the media about a blizzard that was dumping 1 to 3 feet of snow in the Midwest. I'm sorry. But that's media bias for you. Anyway. But what people here remember too, and this is slightly off topic, was what happened 25 years ago today, November 1st, which in this area people would remember is the Gong Lu shooting at the University of Iowa. University of Iowa shootings.
Oh yeah.
November 1st, 1991, when Gong Lu killed 5 people at the University of Iowa.
That's true.
And this is what's remembered about that, because they probably showed it on the news. I didn't watch the news today, but they probably did. It'd be a respite from watching political stuff. But what you typically see is the shot of the hall that they were killed in, and it's snowing moderately, because it was snowing in Iowa City that day because of the storm. The blizzard was taking place. Except we got like an inch of snow. But roads, Iowa had ice 1 to 3 inches thick in some areas, so a lot of people couldn't plow the roads. There was blizzard conditions in western Iowa where they got over a foot of snow. Minnesota was pretty much undrivable because they had 1 to 3 feet of snow. Minneapolis ended up with the largest 24-hour period of snow, something like 18 inches in a 24-hour period or something like that. Duluth had 3 feet of snow. And everybody will be like, yes, that's when we used to get snow in October. So
yep.
We haven't really had a snowstorm that bad outside of the 1997 freak snowstorm that occurred at the end of October as the garbage truck is going by.
The garbage truck going by at 6:30 at night.
Yeah, they pick up garbage. The one garbage company in town picks up garbage on Tuesday night.
Wow.
When I'm done with this, I got to go take my garbage out because my garbage comes Wednesday morning. So anyway, now I've lost track. Snow. The 97 storm. Outside of 1991 that I can remember, and 97, there really hasn't been a big early season snow here that I can remember. That's at least memorable.
Neither can I, really.
Yeah, because I can't. The 91 dumped a lot of snow. 97 dumped quite a bit. And the 97 storm was similar in scope because it occurred during a warm fall. We had a very warm fall in October of 97. I remember this because I was taking measurements then. And in the early part of that month, in October, we were in the mid to upper 80s, like 5 days in a row. And it was very, very warm. And then we drastically got cold, and a big storm came up, and we had 6 to 7 inches of snow, and it was wet. And what typically happens when it's warm, like it's been here, the leaves are still around, which they still are. And the trees came down. So luckily we didn't have that this time because, and this is funny because Matt and I did our fall foliage tours thing, whatever. There is still, the color in Anamosa now is actually better now than it was 2 weeks ago.
Wow. Wow.
But you drive up to Dubuque, and where we were up in Wisconsin by the Platte Mound Dam, there's still a little bit of color, but 90% of the leaves are gone. That was back on Wednesday.
Anamosa is pretty much hitting peak right now.
But technically, if you drive around, most of the color just seems to be really good in town. You go outside of town, there's nothing. It's gone. Because we had a really bad windstorm. Because I told Matt about a very bad electrical storm we had a couple days ago. I think that day before it was really windy. We had 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. And I think we had another day where it was really windy. And I had to yesterday go to my mom's and take a bunch of leaves off her driveway because there was so many of them that had fallen off her trees up there. So we've lost. All the ash trees are gone. My maple that's in my yard has lost maybe 20%. The one in the backyard, this was interesting. I was at my mom's today mowing. She has a silver maple in her backyard. It hasn't changed color yet.
Wow.
It's starting to. The ash tree that's right next to it, all the leaves are gone. And that's the problem we've had this year. And Matt, you would probably agree from when we went fall foliage touring that we either had a full foliage tree that was green, or we had a tree next to it that all the leaves were gone. That's how messed up it's been. The trees are all messed up. They don't know what season it is. And obviously,
it's been very hit and miss too with color. You'll have the really isolated spots with great color, but you'll have other spots that have almost no color at all, or the trees or the leaves just fell right off.
And
kind of strange to me.
And I've noticed there's the burning bush. You know those bushes that have the green leaves and they turn red.
Yep.
I think it's a burning bush or something. My mother has a few, and they're just turning red now. And there's several of them in Anamosa that are just turning red now. And they're turning red at least 2 weeks late. There's several trees up by my mom's house that are they have brown leaves and there's some maroon. So it actually looks really good because of the color with the brown and maroon and whatnot. But
oh yeah,
I was driving today and I saw there's some good shots. And then I'll mention what I saw yesterday because I love driving around. I'm like Matt. I love to just drive around. But in the distance, you can see some color. It's very splotchy. It's like yellow here, red here, but it's a lot of brown. But I'm just fearing that I'm hoping we're not going to get a very heavy wet snow like the 97 storm. We can get all these leaves gone so we can get a snow, because I don't want to have trees come crashing down and then we end up with a bigger catastrophe. And otherwise we would get if we get our first snow and the trees are all barren and it just snows and that's it. And it's like cars crash. You'd rather see, and honestly, I'm not saying that we should all have cars crash, but that happens anyway. It's a first snow. No, everybody doesn't remember how to drive.
Yep.
But what you would rather have at least travel issues than having travel issues plus power lines down, trees down, destruction everywhere. You might as well have a tornado. This not as bad. So, but
kind of a silly analogy, but it kind of works with that.
But one other thing, and then I'll let Matt talk because I always like to talk 90%, and then Matt says one word, and then I have to say 600. Anyway, yesterday, and this was a first. I had never seen this before ever. I was driving north of town, and Matt would know which road I'm talking about. The road north of town, the road that you take right off of the Ford Street.
Oh, okay.
You go outside of town on that road. So this was several miles up. This was by the old Cask Church, which Matt would have no clue where that is. Out in the field, which at least 60, 70% of the fields have been harvested. And I might make a mention, Iowa's behind in corn and soybean harvest this year. And I can understand why. I'm seeing a lot of fields that haven't been harvested yet. But anyway, in this cornfield that had been harvested, I saw, for the first time ever, 4 bald eagles together. 4. I had never seen that many. I've seen 2 once. I've seen several, one like a bald eagle, singularity, a single bald eagle. I've seen that numerous times. I've seen 2 together once. I'd never seen 4. And they were all mature because they were all adults, I'd say.
Right. They all had the white head.
Yeah. And I did not have my camera with me. I was so pissed. So,
well,
that kind of
you've never been down to the Mississippi River on Locking Dam 15 then in the wintertime, have you?
Well, I'm not driving down. I mean, outside of rivers.
Oh, okay.
Now, I've never been down there to see them, and I know there's a bunch of them because they go down there to get fish. Because the water down, especially by locking dams, there's water that always stays pretty unless we get a real cold snap. They get down there, they'll grab the fish because that's what they do up at Decorah because they're by the fish hatchery.
Yep.
But to be there in a farm field in the middle of nowhere near any water source was very strange. But
that is a little strange.
So, but I've seen. I saw, this was one time I saw a bald eagle right on the side of the road, and I thought I didn't want, because this was on a paved road in Lynn County. This was about a year or 3 years ago. I slowed down to the point that I could have actually reached out and touched it, which I wasn't going to do, because it was on the side of the road. Just standing there like waiting across the road, and I'm like, I slowed down to a dead crawl because I thought if it started flying, it would like fly into me or something. And of course, you do not want to hit a bald eagle unless your life depended on it, because you don't.
Right.
But so that was kind of a bit creepy, but that's the closest I've ever gotten to a bald eagle. I'm not going to mention about the incident with the deer in my yard or raccoons in my apartment when I lived in Springville and all that stuff, because you've heard me talk about that numerous times.
Yep.
So Matthew went to Idaho, and Matthew is now going to tell us about that.
Idaho was fun. Had a blast. Went up there to see some friends. Way up there in Bonners Ferry. Went up to. I left there Monday. Got there Wednesday afternoon-ish. Drove pretty hard, pretty far. Only mainly stopped just for gas and stuff like that. That's kind of how I like to travel when I'm driving. But I made one little side stop on the way up there. I went and saw downtown Sturgis, South Dakota. I went to the Sturgis Harley dealership and bought some T-shirts and whatnot.
I thought he was going to say he bought a Harley.
No. Actually, that place that I was at, they didn't sell bikes there. It was just a merchandise shop. The actual place where they sold bikes was further down, and I didn't get a chance to go down there because I wanted to get back on the road. But went and saw that, and then cannonballed pretty much the rest of the way back up to Idaho. Absolutely beautiful up there. It was a little chilly, not too bad. Nothing a hooded sweatshirt couldn't take care of. But went up to the Canadian border. That was cool to see. I've never seen the Canadian border before.
And then he got arrested.
No, I didn't get arrested.
Okay.
I didn't get arrested.
Okay, wait a minute. Now we have to stop. You're telling me you have never been to the Canadian border?
Correct.
Until then.
Correct.
So correct. You'd never been there until that point. Well, I beat you at something.
Oh, really?
This is the sneaky thing. I was on Belle Isle in Detroit.
Oh, well, yeah.
That counts?
Well, there you can pretty much throw a rock into Canada.
I couldn't. It was my birthday, 2001. 4 days after 9/11. You do that, you'd probably get arrested.
Yeah, probably.
I saw Canadians. I waved at Canadians. So I saw other people from another country with my own eyes. I mean, but no, thanks, Bin Laden. Because that was going to be my birthday day, was going to Windsor. But anyway, you keep going. You went to the border and you saw the lovely tree, the line that there's no trees.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. Bonners Ferry itself is only 1,800 feet-ish above sea level, where they measure it. But it kind of sits in a bowl, and most of the residential part of Bonners Ferry sits pretty much on two mountains. So you'll have people that live within the city limits of Bonners Ferry that live at 5,000 feet, but yet, you go downtown to get something to eat and you're only at 1,800 feet. It's kind of strange. But I actually had to deal with altitude the first couple of days because where I stayed was up on one of the mountains, and it's been a long time since I've been in the mountains, so I actually had to deal with altitude for the first night or two, which was I don't remember being affected that much by the altitude, but I guess when you change altitude that quickly, it can kind of get to you.
Yeah.
But I went to Scarywood.
Yes.
Over the weekend. That was an absolute blast.
I thought he was going to say it sucked.
No, it was an absolute blast. They went overkill with the vibe and the environment. They literally covered the entire theme park in smoke, like with smoke machines.
Or like smoke or fog machine.
What's that?
Like smoke and fog machines type stuff.
Yeah, that. Yeah. It was like a really foggy night inside that theme park, all over the entire theme park. A lot of the attractions were awesome. There were a couple that didn't really. They were cool and they were fun, but they weren't exactly what I was expecting. Like one of them, there's a train ride that you do. It's basically a zombie killing adventure.
Uh-oh. The one he wanted to go on, and now it sucks.
Well, it didn't suck. It was fun. It was a blast. But what you're supposed to do is basically ride along with, ragtag group of soldiers. They make a lap around the park killing zombies with guns and stuff. The cool part was they swore a lot, which was fun. And the other cool part was they used real weapons with real blanks. They didn't use just little percussion. They used real blanks, and you could smell the cordite coming off the weapons as they were shooting.
As it discharged, yeah.
Yeah. What was weird to me though was that the one that was on my train car pulled his trigger only 5 times the entire ride. And it was a 40-minute trip.
Okay.
So I was a little disappointed in that.
Okay.
Most of the gunfiring was taking place with an automatic weapon that was up on top of the train.
Okay. Which
kind of mobile machine gun nest type thing going on, and that was fun. But I was expecting a little more.
Okay, so Matt gives it a
I give it out of 10. I'd give it a 7.
It sounds like, from what I gather, I'd give it maybe a 7.5 for the swearing. But I have to go off on this because he had to mention the swearing was cool. Evidently, then the people on the FIA wouldn't take too kindly to going to Scarywood, given the fact that in the Formula One race this past weekend, Sebastian Vettel swore up and down and told somebody, the FIA race director, to F off, and almost got reprimanded for it. but didn't. Pretty much got a slap on the wrist, said, don't do it again. But anyway.
Huh.
And there's more about that.
Isn't Sebastian Vettel teammates with Lewis Hamilton?
Who is?
Isn't Sebastian Vettel teammates with Lewis Hamilton?
No.
Then who's he teammates with?
Vettel's at Ferrari. Hamilton's at Mercedes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Hamilton won the race. Vettel was. This is how bad it was. We're going off topic, but this was fun. Okay, because obviously this is what happened in the Formula One race. The first part of it was 71 laps. The first about 67 laps were pretty much. Then that evil man Verstappen guy came along and wanted to cause trouble.
Here we go.
Don't like it. But anyway, he decided to cut the course, which he shouldn't have done, because Vettel was right behind him, and right behind Vettel was Ricciardo, who was Verstappen's teammate. You'll see where we're going. Verstappen should have given the spot to Vettel because he cut the course. He didn't. And in the span of that, Verstappen then slowed way down to let Ricciardo through, or try to get Ricciardo to be in front, because then Verstappen would let it go and Ricciardo would be third and Verstappen would be fourth. Well, Vettel didn't like that idea. Vettel then got into a little scuff with Ricciardo, and at the end, Verstappen finished third. He went up to the podium to find out he was penalized and dropped to fifth. That meant Vettel, who finished fourth, went to the podium. Then they did the podium, la-di-da-di-da. After Vettel pretty much swore up and down that if he didn't get third, he was going to – he swore and said F off and all this stuff. After the race, 3 hours later, Vettel's penalized and is dropped to fifth, bumping Ricciardo to third. So then there's probably more swearing after that. But anyway, that's where that went. And the race got exciting. Everybody went crazy and freaked out because they said it was the best race or the best swearing ever. But anyway. Weather connection, it was sunny there. But that's about it.
Where was that Grand Prix held? Which
Mexico City.
race was that?
Mexico.
Nice. So it was nice and warm.
Yeah. You got to remember too. Mexico City is about 5,000 feet up.
Right.
So
pretty warm up there.
It was warm, like in the 60s, low 70s, something like that.
That works for me.
Yeah. Well, they're in Brazil in 2 weeks, so
that's true.
Where it'll probably rain a lot. So. So go back. You went to Scarywood. You had that. Blah blah blah. What else?
Took a drive around. The day that we went to the border, drive around pretty much all around northern Idaho. Seeing a couple of their favorite fishing spots and whatnot. Absolutely postcard views everywhere. I mean, you get. Northern Idaho in fall, even though there's only one color other than the evergreen green, there was one other color, which was kind of this weird yellowish color that spread it over several square miles and then put yourself in a position where you can see all of it. It's pretty breathtaking.
So the yellow is probably what I would say is aspen trees.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Because aspen trees always have that yellowish tinge, and they're all in the mountains. You very rarely see aspen trees. You can grow aspen trees in the Midwest, but typically you don't, because they'll survive, but they pretty much won't give you as good a color, I guess.
Yeah. After that, I took off a couple days ago. And I decided I was going to lengthen my trip by about 36 hours, and I went and saw a friend of mine in Pueblo, Colorado.
So yeah, so Matt, and then I thought Matt was going to say, and then after that, I decided I'm going to go to Sydney, Australia.
Well, I'm kind of on the way to the airport. I'm getting it. I have a flight booked. You know, things happen.
Anyway.
But had an absolute blast down there. Their backyard. They are Colorado transplants from Iowa. They lived in Tipton for a long time.
Okay.
And they bought a house in actually West Pueblo, or Pueblo West, as it's
Pueblo.
actually called. And the great thing about their property, Pikes Peak, is their backyard.
No.
And you sit on their back porch and you look and off into the mountains in the distance, and you look a little bit to your right, and boom, there it is, Pikes Peak.
Now, when you were there, was there snow on the top?
The first day, yes, a little bit of snow. You could see a little bit of white, but by yesterday morning, it was gone. It was melted. It was fairly warm there. It was 80 yesterday in Pueblo, and I had dinner that night at their house. We had grilled Cornish game hen, which was amazing. And then we went to, we got up the next morning and we kind of, again, just kind of drove around looking at stuff. We went to the base of Pikes Peak, to the little town that's down there.
Okay.
And I got to geek out on a bunch of rocks. I bought a bunch of rocks because I'm a bit of a geology nerd too. I got a tourmaline soap dish. I got a geode that's about twice the size of an egg. I got 2 pieces of real obsidian, a small piece of rose quartz. I got about a 1.5 pound chunk of amethyst that has a little bit of smoky quartz. What else did I get? I got a hexagonal block of petrified wood, which looks amazing.
His apartment is going to be filled with rocks.
Yeah, it will be. It will be.
I'm surprised.
We did that. We went across the street. The town we were in, I can't remember the name of it, but the town we were in is where all the racers set up their pit spaces for the Pikes Peak Rally.
The hill climb, yeah.
Yeah, for the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. That's where everybody sets up their pit space, and then they go up, I think it's a half a mile or so, up the hill to the actual starting line. But went there after we went to the rock shop. We went and had barbecue at a place called Rudy's Barbecue and Gas Station. You wouldn't think that would be a very good combination, but that's probably some of the best.
I haven't been to Kansas City. There's some places in KC that are like that, and of course, we've been in Kansas City, but there's a few gas station barbecue restaurants in Kansas City that I know of.
Yeah, this place pretty much takes the cake. They had the best barbecue I think I've ever tasted. So much so that I bought a ginormous bottle of their sissy sauce, they call it.
Oh, so you're a sissy.
Actually, it's kind of the opposite. That stuff's the hot stuff, and it's really good. And I bought some of their dry spice rub as well. I had beef brisket sandwich that was just perfect, just absolutely perfect. Best barbecue I've ever had, and that's saying something. But after that, we drove around the Garden of the Gods in Colorado Springs. That was really cool. I got a bunch of pictures there. Where else did we go? There was one more place we went. I'm trying to remember. Oh, we went to downtown Pueblo, which has a really cool river walk that's fairly loosely based off the river walk in San Antonio.
And that would be the Arkansas River, I think.
Yep. It's the Arkansas River. Very, very cool little place. Really cool Veterans Memorial there. went and got some coffee, not at Starbucks, at a local coffee shop called Solar Roast Coffee Company. If you're ever in downtown Pueblo and you want some damn good coffee, go to Solar Roast. Pretty good stuff.
Yeah, they didn't sponsor they don't sponsor us, so they owe us money.
That's okay. I'll plug stuff I like shamelessly. I have no qualms with that.
Well, then, heck, we'll
After
have
that,
to
we
poke
went
all
back
this.
to their house. Go ahead.
Keep going.
After that, we went back to their house, watched a little bit of the Bears game, and then we had some Angelo's pizza delivered, which was pretty fabulous. It was very, very much New York style. Very thin slices, but huge.
Okay.
3 slices, and I was absolutely stuffed.
Okay, wait a minute. Stop. 3 slices, and this is from the man who I have seen who went into Brightbox, loaded his plate that was 20 feet tall with the food, and gobbled it down in 5 seconds. And he's like, 3 slices pizza, I'm full. Yeah, right.
Yep. No, really.
Circumference
3
was
slices, and I was done.
60? Was it a 60-inch? Was it a 60-inch pizza?
A 60-inch pizza. I wish. No, it was a regular, seemingly large-sized pizza.
So like 12 or 14 or 16 or like 16, 18, something?
16. I'd call it somewhere in the ballpark of 16.
Okay. So
that was really good pizza. And then we sat on the back porch and watched the stars, and consumed a few beverages and went to bed. And then I got up at pretty much the butt crack of dawn and started heading back.
And right now it's 7 o'clock. And where are you now?
I am 54 miles west of Des Moines.
Yeah, and right now there's still nothing on radar. Radar is
I'm rain free.
Well, the thing was the SPC said there'd be storms developing between 2 and 3Z. So that's 9 and 10 o'clock. So by then you'll be somewhere east of Des Moines.
Oh, by then I'll probably be home. By 9 or 10, I'll probably be
3
home.
hours when it takes 2 hours. Well, airspeed, it takes 2 hours to get from here to Des Moines. So, and take into consideration, you're probably going to get pulled over because you're still from Kansas.
Don't jinx me like that. I'm not doing terribly with my speed.
He's probably going like a little tad over.
Just a little.
Yeah, when he says little, this is the man who's like, let's pile the plate up with 60,000 things. So,
well,
but
it's all relative.
What but outside of him running off to this trail of fun and fest and leaving me here stuck in Podunkville. Except for
you just got to get out and look out the window.
Except for Cheesecake Factory, which I might mention because when I went up there, I ended up eating all my. I had meatloaf again, which
nice.
You would know I had when we were at Cheesecake Factory in Kansas City, actually Overland Park, Kansas. But we had the lunch one, so I only got 2 slices instead of 3, and my mom got the same thing because she's like, she doesn't know what she's getting herself into. I ate all of that, and I thought my stomach was going to explode because my stomach was so full.
Yeah.
And I was slightly surprised that I went the whole day without having to, and this is really bad, having to go, because typically when I eat a ton, it'll come right out or something. It pushes whatever out. This is like really gross, but it didn't happen this time, which I was slightly surprised. But the next day I was horribly sick.
Welcome to Gastro Brains.
So this is what I get for not having a gallbladder. So
You'll have that. It's okay.
but
You had good food, and that's what matters.
yeah.
Oh, by the way, another place I need to shamelessly plug: Soul Machine Burritos in downtown Bonners Ferry, Idaho. Best burritos ever. Period. Dot blank.
Okay, so yeah, those people, they owe us money.
That place, for roughly $6, you get a burrito that's easily twice the size of Pancheros or Chipotle.
Uh-oh. We better not find out. They better not find out about them.
Right. No, this place is a hell of it's probably Bonners Ferry's probably best. I would say.
Well, you have to remember too that Bonners Ferry is pretty much, they have to keep everybody, they're quite a distance away from everything. There's only about 2,500 people that live up there, roughly.
Yeah, the next biggest town is about an hour away, and that's Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah, so they're not, and you're going to have to go through fairly terrain to get there. So there's a lot of cases where if you want to have good food, you don't want to drive an hour. So that's why decent places, especially in, let's say, like in the Midwest, if you're far enough away from a bigger city, you tend to get the best food. For example, Bright Box is close enough to Dubuque, but when we went up there, but so many people go up there, it's almost like you got to go out of your way. The thing is, and I don't know if you've gone out here yet to the general store in Stone City.
Oh yeah, I've been there many times.
Yeah, because they said that's one of the places you have to eat in Iowa before you die.
Yep.
Right. Bright Box is another, but I've never been to the general store in Stone City, mainly because my dad was always, when he was alive, I don't want to go there, and I don't want to go to these places. See, he never wanted to try anything new. It wasn't until we cracked him when we went to Cracker Barrel. He had never gone there. And when we were in Washington, D.C. in 2012, to Cracker Barrel. We went to Cracker Barrel somewhere in Virginia. It's the first time he'd ever been there. Then we couldn't get him to want to stop going there to the one in Davenport because he always go. But that's the weird thing, because now, and sad but true, that since my father's died, my mother and I have gone to places now that we never would have if my father was still alive, like going to Cheddar's or going to Olive Garden or all these places, because he was like, we go here, 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 because then he would. But the thing is, we go more to local places now than we used to, because we're not kind of like something like that. But yeah, local places. I'd want to go and eat at Tyler and Downing's here in Anamosa, but their food is too expensive. Except they keep throwing out tacos. It's like, So
making me hungry. I need dinner.
Well, too bad. Yesterday I ate at Mikado's and I had my taco tater.
Oh, there you go.
Ate the whole thing because yesterday, of course, was Halloween, so my mother was going to have to do trick-or-treaters. But this was probably one of the better trick-or-treater forecasts because it was in the low 60s at trick-or-treat time. My mother only had 28.
Wow.
And I said to her, the likelihood is a lot of people, unfortunately, in the world we live in today, not a lot of people do this anymore, where they don't go, they go to certain houses. They're not just going to go like what I used to. I used to just leave the house. I'd go to every house that had a light on. Me
too. I was always my block's candy collecting champion on Halloween. I'd show up at the end of the night every Halloween with a pillowcase full of candy. Dragging it behind me.
This would be the only time I would end up walking more than any other time of the year.
Yep.
The last year I did it was when I was in 4th grade. And as a truck with a very loud muffler goes by. That I walked because I had stitches because I'd gotten myself into a bit of an accident the day before on the 30th.
Oh.
I had stitches in my forehead. So I ended up getting, I ended up using the, oh, look at my stitches. These aren't fake. These are real. I ended up sympathy candy. I got more candy that year than ever. But it's true. There were people went from house to house to house to house. Nowadays, they go to certain houses or leave or whatnot. And then there's all these things where they're having like these Halloween parties and they send their kids to them or whatnot. There's churches that are doing stuff now. It's kind of made Halloween not fun anymore because a lot of people don't want to do it because you never know if somebody's turning on their light and they're not a good person. So
true. That's because I think that's because people just they don't open their windows anymore. Everybody sits in their house with their windows closed, shut, shutters drawn. Nothing from the outside gets let in unless they want it to. And, you know,
oh, yeah, like me, because I didn't turn on my light on Halloween because I don't like trick-or-treaters. I mean, it's all well fine, but I don't like people. Since this was my first year I lived in a house, I finally I have some peace and quiet. There weren't that many trick-or-treaters running around the neighborhood anyway. But I at least have the right to not have my light on. But unfortunately, there's a lot of it's not the same as it used to be.
Yeah, that's true.
Because and I know this is off topic, but it's kind of somewhat on topic because typically 10 years ago, when we'd have weather like we did this last night, my mother, because my parents had lived up there since '92. So my mom's lived up there for 24 years now. And then my dad before he died. My parents back the first couple of years they lived there would get as many on one good years when it was like nice. They would get over 100 kids.
Oh yeah.
Yesterday, my mother had 28, and it was not raining. It was not cold, and it was clear. 28 kids. There's where Halloween is gone. So,
yep.
Sad but true.
On that note, I gotta let you go, Jeff, because I'm starting to come into some traffic.
Okay, so Matt's going into a traffic jam, so I'll let Matt go. So safe travels. He'll be back home in about 3 hours, maybe.
Yes, sir.
So see you later, Matthew.
Take care. See you later, everybody.
So as Matt leaves, we're going to end it here. We'll see if we'll do a show on Saturday. It'll be a Saturday show. This would be probably about the 6th or so. So we'll see if we're going to do a show. Or 5th. Well, wait. What day is this? Is it Tuesday, it'd be the 5th. So we'll see if we'll do a show on Saturday. But this was the show number 19. If you want to get a hold of us, we're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. So as for Matthew, who's in traffic jam, and Jeff, myself, who's in his house, in his living room, nice and comfy and warm, we'll see you next week. Goodbye.